broadcast. All right, it says we are live, and we just go ahead and verify it somewhere, which would be nice, but where do I see the videos on YouTube? All right, probably that 7-second delay, so I'm assuming it's working. I just don't see any video. And coffee and cookies, dashboard. Where's the home page of my show? Coffee and Cookies Live. Stop streaming, all right. This is the part where I probably lose half the viewers. There's no show. I mean, I could assume it's working.
What's that?
Huh?
What's that?
I don't see it showing up.
Oh, it's going. It's live. I'm stretching my back.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I see
it. You're saying losing half the viewers.
All right, I can't see it, but I'm sure it'll pop up sooner or later. All right, then good enough. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Coffee and Cookie Show.
I didn't put on my glasses for a second.
All right, I'm James.
Yeah, hey, welcome. It's been, a couple weeks since
weeks?
Last episode?
Get a lot of people saying, when's the next episode coming out? A lot, meaning 2. But 2 beats 0 any day of the week. So if you do the math,
2 as you want me to.
All right, what is the topic of today?
So the topic today is it's not just about Chernobyl, but about nuclear power in general. But one of our favorite TV shows from HBO is from 2019, I believe. It's called Chernobyl TV series, and it goes through the nuclear disaster that took place in Russia before it became. Was it USSR or Russia? It was USSR.
USSR at the time. So this kind of helped. I mean, it wasn't just another straw in the camel's back to the collapse of the Soviet Union. But technically, Ukraine, I believe now, but USSR back then. So that we're not going to get too deep into that, but it does actually create some issues because Russia actually has been sending.
It.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll go over all the what happened, what it means now, and how it contributes to the fall of USSR in this podcast. But that's our topic for today. It's about Chernobyl, specifically around the TV series on HBO. So, what do you think about the TV series, James? Did you watch the whole?
I saw the TV series. Here's the interesting thing: is this? When I was first thinking of this weeks ago. I thought, I misremembered, I guess. I probably watched it really late at night, and I just had this memory of watching the show and liking it, but then, looking up the real history and thinking they did change a lot of stuff for dramatic effect. And again, this is what could be best as a fictional retelling of a real event, like Titanic and Pearl Harbor. I mean, it's closer to real life than that. But there were some things that really bugged me because in the final credits, it said, oh, these people died. And then in real life, oh, these people didn't die. It's like, well, in the final credits, those titles where they kind of show pictures and stuff like that, that's what you expect to be true. And when that wasn't true, I thought, well, why would you lie there? You're supposed to actually tell the truth there and say what you fictionalized. But then, so I'm living with this lie for years, but then it turns out, I'm looking at the credits again. I watched the last 6 minutes of the credits, and it's like, it was different than I remember. It actually was the true stuff. So I thought, did they change it? And I'm going to ChatGPT, and it said, no, we have no record of them changing it. So I guess I just remembered it differently. But
any chance that the first time you watched it, you were hitting the bottle?
Probably. I mean, there's a really good chance.
Your recollection.
Late at night, of course. That's such a chance. There's a chance you were breathing at the time. There's a very good chance I was breathing at the time. So
yeah,
I was obviously drinking something.
What I like about the TV show is I'm always fascinated with what life was like in USSR, right? I mean, we know what life was like in the US in 1986. I wasn't born then, but
let me put a pin in that for a second. We got a comment. One of our he did it on a personal text. It says your volume's lower, so I'm going to go ahead and do what's known as
my volume is lower.
No, I wouldn't change it there. Mine actually has been pinged up to like well, 11 decibels higher. So I'm going to go ahead and change that right now, and our viewers can tell us whether your mic is more balanced. It doesn't have like equalization to that level. All right, go ahead. What do you like about the series?
Yeah, what I like about it is what life was like in USSR at that time. So I like the way it shows how people dress, how people interacted, how the communist government influenced every part of everyone's decision making, and how the hierarchy of USSR. So I like that part of it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think most critics were really impressed by the scenery. And I mean, if you look now, I think it's the end of the program, or I just saw a documentary where people put the footage side by side, and it's like some of the stuff is exact. I mean, you're watching like real, I mean, it's better quality, but you're watching the newscasters and all that stuff, and I thought that's what's pretty cool. Now, the people that did the show, the producers, I mean, everyone that worked on it, they had the same footage. They modeled their scenes after that footage, but you can just see, holy cow, it's like they did an extremely good job at that stuff. So there was a lot of there's a lot of really great things about it. So I would say that.
Watch the series, but I mean, we're going to talk about it. But you should go watch the series if you have not seen it. So the next time, why do you think? What were the misinformation? I mean, why would Hollywood change anything at all? Why not just retell the story the way it happened?
The director has been interviewed and has kind of defended his position on a lot of the stuff, the changes he made. But there were critics that pointed out, and one of the main things we can get into is he kind of modeled it after someone's book about how he lived through it and her recollection and her stories. But she wasn't, I believe, a nuclear physicist or a scientist. She kind of did it more of an emotional level, which is great and all. But emotions don't give you facts. They just give you how you feel and how other people feel. Then you got the telephone game of secondary information getting warped. So there was a big mistake probably just to pattern it after what one person said in a book, because again, you want professionals and not. So you get a lot of misinformation, and this creates a huge problem for us today, really, because not so much from the series, but the incident at Chernobyl. It sort of shifted nuclear science and nuclear energy to the wrong direction, I believe.
Yeah, I was also reading a book. There was a lot of misinformation, not just the TV series, but how the propaganda machine of USSR was trying to manage the message. USSR as a government did not, I mean, which contributed to the start of the downfall. It was not very open and forthcoming about what did happen. So not just the TV series, but there were a lot of misinformation coming out of USSR about what happened to Chernobyl. So moving on to the next topic, James, you may know this. So before we talk about all this, right, how does a nuclear reactor work? And how's it different than like coal power or gas power or hydroelectric? How does nuclear power work, James?
Well, all of our nuclear plants, everything nuclear powered works on, the one word you have is fission. And fission with an I is to basically divide, as opposed to the entire opposite, getting power from fusion, which is to fuse together, bring together. So when you got fission, things get split, and we got fusion, things come together. Now the sun uses fusion, which is really cool because it kind of fuses, I think, hydrogen, and you get extreme power and light, and we stay alive. With fission, it's cool, releases power when you break something, that moment the atom breaks, but it also has wasteful byproduct, and that's the biggest problem with nuclear power. And you've got not so much you got radioactive elements, but you just have stuff to dispose of, and you have a risk, of course. But we'll talk about it. But the explosion at Chernobyl wasn't like a nuclear bomb, so people think, kind of a nuclear bomb went off, and it wasn't that. It was basically the first one was a vapor steam explosion, and the second one was more of a hydrogen explosion, but neither one were nuclear explosions. You still had radiation kind of being blown out, which is not good, but nowhere near as bad as, well, actually I would say that in some ways it's worse, because with like nuclear bombs, nowadays you can kind of detonate one. We haven't used them in battle, but you can kind of have a limited nuclear strike, which won't be so bad to the rest of the world. But in this one, the radiation just goes everywhere. So
Yeah.
I
Hey,
will actually show a video. Oh, good.
Oh, you will? Hang on a second. So we have a viewer that made a comment, and the comment is the title is wrong. It's 6 months sober live with James and not Chernobyl.
Titles.
So
Oh, wait. I thought I changed the title.
we could be 6 months sober. So
I did
it's
change
6
the
months
title.
sober at Chernobyl.
Oh, man. All right. Maybe we could change the title midstream.
On the fly? Yeah. Hey, this is live television, okay? So this is not rehearsed. We're doing this live, and there will be technical difficulties. So let's see what James can do.
Oh, that's why
here.
I don't see. Okay, so I don't know where it's recording because it didn't connect.
You're not
to the
recording
right
over
one,
your
I guess.
6 months sober video, did you? I mean, the background looks good with the nuclear explosion.
Is this recording on the Coffee and Cookies channel, or is it recording on the...
Yeah, it's live. No, it's live.
You're watching it on Coffee and Cookies.
It's Coffee and Cookies show, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the main thing. It's on the right channel. Yeah, I see it. Live with James, 6 months over. Oh, okay. Can I edit that? It's on the right channel. It just changed the title. But...
we can let it go if can we change the title later?
Yeah, but I guess most of the people okay, the people watching, they know. I don't think we're having a lot.
For the people watching, we're not talking about James 6 months sober. We're talking about the Chernobyl TV series and nuclear as a whole. For all the live people, all the cool people, it's about Chernobyl. All right, let's go. Let's show you a video. You're going to show a video of how nuclear fission works?
Yeah, I just wish I could change this stupid edit video. I don't know.
They could be obsessed over
Oh, wait a second. Okay, hold on. Chernobyl, HBO. All right, save. So maybe this will change. I think you can do stuff live stream because I've seen people do their pictures live stream. Okay.
All right. While you're doing that, I can give. So we can talk about nuclear power plant. Maybe I'll give a little history about nuclear. I mean,
you worked at a nuclear. Well, you helped clean up.
Well, it was actually refueling, right? So a little history about myself. I before I went back to college to get my mechanical engineering degree, I did work in the nuclear industry. Not Chernobyl, but I worked at General Electric, which uses BWR, boiling water reactors, and the architecture of Russia's nuclear powers is a little different. I might go into all the detail on what the differences are, but I don't want to bore the
we don't want to get too deep in the weeds here.
Right. So there's architectural differences. It's working now. So so I am quite of an expert on nuclear power energy. So with that, James, all right, show us a video on how fission works.
Yeah, so, I mean, a really basic thing. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear. I mean, we'll see.
I'll make sound effect if I can hear.
Okay.
Nuclear power plants generate energy.
Actually, I think it might be working.
Nuclear fission. Fission is just another word for splitting. So the process of splitting a nucleus
so much
is
for
called
being
nuclear
6 months sober. I see.
For fission to be done in any practical way, we have to use big atoms like uranium or plutonium. To start off the process, one of these...
So anyway, you're always going to see uranium or plutonium being mentioned. Those are the ones you use the most, pretty much all the time.
2 or 3 neutrons
anyway, it's really cool. It splits it, neutrons fly out, hit more, they fly out, and chain reaction. And if you've got them all tightly together...
average American every year with just 275 grams of natural uranium.
Alright, it gets into the boring stuff now. Okay, so yeah, you get a chain reaction with so much energy and everything really tightly together, so it can't be like loose, it's got to be real tight, and then it just causes so much energy that it just explodes. In fact, fun fact, scientists are worried about actually setting the atmosphere on fire, like an uncontrolled chain reaction where it just kept going and just started burning everything, kind of like, like I said, different than the sun, but sort of the idea that just everything keeps going. So they weren't even sure that they weren't going to basically kill the world, literally kill the world.
Yeah,
but they did, so yay.
Yay. Okay, all right.
All right,
that was
so we kind of got the basics of a nuclear power, and it's good to learn stuff. So really quickly, the fission takes place because you should know how a nuclear power plant works. So you just don't use the fission, that whole nuclear reaction. It's actually, it heats up some water heats up some other water, the water turns to steam runs a turbine, and the turbine basically generates electricity. So you're getting electricity because of this. So it's not like it directly gets used as power. And that's why you see those big cooling towers often or other things. Some places cool it with rivers. They have the power plant next to the ocean and they just or next to a river and they use the river water. People complain, but it heats up the water and the fish all die. It's like, I don't know. I mean, there's pros and cons to all of this, and that's what we're kind of talking about today. So Chernobyl was kind of one of the plants that just had a problem. We'll talk about the very, very few real issues we've had since nuclear power came onto the scene, which is kind of interesting because a lot of people hate it, and yet we do need energy. So moving on, let's go to our high-tech graphics since we spent all this time making them, and that would be all right. First one, I guess, is what actually happened. Boom! What happened? What happened on that day? April 26, 1986, and that was about 3 months after, almost to the day after the Challenger blew up. So it was not a good year. I think I was 3 years old or something. It was just insane. This 3-year-old.
I wasn't born.
Maybe I'm off on my dates. How old I was, I don't know.
Yeah. So a little background about what a nuclear power plant means, right? I mean, the size of it. So Chernobyl nuclear power plant generates about 3,200 megawatts, right? What does that mean? Nobody knows what that means, right? I don't know what that means. I have an engineering background. But to give you a little context, Seattle and its proper uses about 1,200 megawatts, right? So Chernobyl generates enough electricity to power 3 different Seattles. That kind of give you perspective on how big the power plant is. So type of explosion, James, what kind of explosion was it?
I think the first one was, so what was happening, and they kind of talk about this in the series, and there's a lot of YouTube videos that get in the details. It was a test. The whole irony is they're doing a test to kind of check.
A safety test, no less.
Yeah. The issue, I think they discussed it, is the people doing the test weren't senior enough or qualified enough to really handle the situation. So that was a problem. One guy was 26 or something, which I guess you could be pretty educated at 26, but it was just not enough experience. They wanted to do it at night, so the people that relied on power didn't have to see their power go down because they were lowering the power. They lowered the power, it got too low. It's like, oh no, the power is getting too low. We'll raise it up. So to raise it up, put the control rods, taking the control rods out. They have these things called control rods. They go in and they basically start absorbing some of the power or the radiation so the reaction slows down, the water cools off. The power got too low, so they started taking all the rods out, and they just took almost all of them out right away. You can kind of see where this is going. A lot of mistakes were made. Heat built up, steam built up, so the first big boom was steam. This happens sometimes. We have steam explosions, which can be very serious. You could even have flour exploding. A lot of things can explode in the right situation. I only know flour because years ago I learned about mill explosions. Those flour mills? They actually have explosions in the flour.
Yeah, like corn. With all the corn does, you have a spark of fire, and it just catches on very quickly with all.
Yeah, some of the most serious explosions haven't.
Yeah, it would just blow off the lid.
So 2 explosions, the steam one first, and then the graphite hydrogen one second, but neither one was nuclear, but enough to kind of spread radioactive elements just everywhere. Everything. So that was a problem, had to be cleaned up, kind of got in the atmosphere. People were worried, actually started blowing towards Russia too, which again is ironic that Russia kind of starts sending missile attacks on the modern one for no reason. It's just you do realize that the smoke can come toward your way. They're kind of stupid sometimes. Anyway, around the world, people were actually pretty concerned, and people were taking potassium iodine capsules. Because if you're your body absorbs that, and it can be radiation in the air, you can absorb the radiation. If you take the capsules, you're at 100%, and your body doesn't need any more, so you're less likely to just basically capture it. It might have been overkill, but I have a bottle of it myself these days. I just
in
I don't
case.
know. Well, you don't know.
You're ready
Yeah,
for the next nuclear explosion.
well, here's the thing. When even this whole COVID thing, when there was no real risk of running out of toilet paper, everyone panicked and bought all the toilet paper. So it's the kind of thing that if you do need it, you probably won't be able to get it because people will panic buy it. So I just figured, why not have a little bottle around? It's like $10.
Oh, you're a prepper. All right, so immediately after the explosion, right? So there's a city next to the power plant called
Pripyat.
Pripyat. I don't know how to pronounce it, right? So much like Hershey City, in Russia around this time there was a city literally built around the nuclear power plant, and it is for the people who service the nuclear power plants and the family who live there, right? So it's like a city that just caters to the nuclear power plants, and there weren't just one nuclear power plant. I think there were like 6 or something like that. So there was a city adjacent to the nuclear power plants. And after the explosion, I think about 48 hours after the explosion, the entire population was asked to leave, and they were told that they would only be gone for a few days. Pack light, you'll be back in no time. Everything is fine. Don't worry about a thing. And they never went back to their homes. So that all happened about 48 hours after the explosion.
Yeah, and that was something that was fairly well done. I mean, I think the series kind of changed it a bit. There was some comment like they waited too long, and other people were saying, well, really, it didn't seem like they really waited that long. Like it's hard to tell what exactly do you do. One of the nice things about a kind of a dictatorship or a communist country is you can just like mandate orders and just say, you guys are all evacuating right now, and you have no choice. You just do it. I mean, here you kind of still have to evacuate, but I think people there were just like, I don't know, maybe it helped telling people get on a bus, you're coming home tomorrow, because they wouldn't leave. And one of the biggest issues they depicted in the series is their pets and stuff like that. So you can't bring the pets with you, so people would not want to leave if you just said your dog's gonna like just either starve to death or get eaten by another dog or be the eaters of other dogs or just be shot. So they didn't tell people all that, and they meant you couldn't, because they did have to. You've had these animals. I think they were justified in removing the dog population, unfortunately, because you just couldn't have them. They could just wander into other cities. So it really had to be done to some extent.
A glow in dark dogs and cows. So there's a lot of misinformation about how many people died from this horrible accident. Before you, I mean, how many people would you say died? I mean, it felt like that was something that was like really, really big. But how many people did you think died?
No. Some scientists say it was about like a few dozen. I mean, now the series and the alarmists will say, oh, it's thousands. It led to all these radiation deaths, and everyone died of like cancer 5 years later or whatever. But I don't know, from what I've read, it's like there's actually no evidence of this, and the evidence suggests, I mean, they know about maybe 30 people. So, I'm taking it from mainly one article, and I'll give you the source. It's good to see the sources of it. Let's go ahead and get our fancy graphics up. So, Nuclear Newswire, how HBO got it wrong on Chernobyl. And I try to be balanced and hear different sides of it, but I tend to agree. If you say, you can say, oh, thousands have died. Well, where are you getting this number from? It's like, well, we don't have anyone. Well, then you can't say thousands died. I mean, but if you
thousands
say,
of people die every day, right? So is it death from this incident, or they just die?
Yeah, so they've only, like, I like this quote. It's like, okay, all in all, the National Institute of Health recently declared that in spite of the best efforts of statisticians and epidemiologists, the claim that thousands of Chernobyl-induced cancers and mutations have yet to manifest themselves, and we've been looking for 33 years. I mean, I kind of feel it's the same thing about like saccharin and stuff like that. You've had a long time to try to really prove it, and if you can't, then maybe something's wrong with kind of your thesis here. So, yeah, it sounds like it might just be a very slow number. There's people that died right away, and then the radiation that occurred, especially people that worked on the scene, but the people that say thousands, well, there's no real evidence of that. So I don't think they're closed off there. Yeah, but it's the scientists and people that really, there are like scientists, nuclear scientists are probably going to want to defend, all this. It's their job, their livelihood, and I think they truly believe in it. But also, you've got doctors that really don't have a stake in the game, whether something is bad or good. They're just doctors. So here is what happens. So I tend to believe them a little bit more because they just have less reason to lie. A scientist is going to lean on, this is all good, unless they're just all pro-wind and pro, water, whatever.
Yeah, they don't have any investment in nuclear power plant. That's why they are spreading lies. It's not clear how many people actually died long term. But something I read is that there were people who died from the explosion itself. I mean, it was a pretty big explosion. People were working in the power plant at that time, so you would expect some fatalities. So what I read was that that night there were 31 people who died. 2 from the initial explosion, which you kind of expect. I mean, if you're working in a power plant, you're checking gauges, and you're just walking around with your little clipboards, and an explosion goes off. You do expect people to have severe injuries. And 21 emergency responders also died shortly after. And these are, one thing the show really did a good job depicting is that, there were a lot of brave men and women who were working to help others. The nurses, when all this was happening, the firefighters were going right up to the power plant, trying to put out the fire. Was pretty futile because it wasn't just a fire; it was a nuclear fission reaction, right? So it wasn't traditional fire, but there were a lot. I mean, the show did a good job. Like the coal miners showed a good job of Russian people who just want to help their peers. But unfortunately, a total of 31 people died, 2 from the initial explosion, and 29 emergency responders who died from a high dose of radiation exposure. So it's unfortunate, but that's what's depicted in the show.
Okay, all right. So I think we want to head on over to the issues with the actual series. I guess one of the big things is the Bridge of Death, which that wasn't the original name. It's not officially known as that. It just kind of got that name. And the series, it suggested at least people that went out and looked at a far-off nuclear blast, or actually, that wasn't a nuclear blast. It was, in fact, even less damaging because a nuclear blast can hurt your eyes. They just saw the explosion from a distance, and they kind of watched it, and it kind of like, this is sensationalism, this series, and definitely what it gets wrong. I don't think the director even debates this, but yeah, okay, nobody on that bridge died from it, or didn't die the next day, or didn't even die long term. I mean, they had 0 deaths, and in the series you said, oh, everyone died. I think that was one at the credits, they did correct that, but it just sort of seemed like misinformation on something this big. It's just sort of not good. Again, people already have decided on nuclear before the series came out. It's like they were for and against. I don't think there's that many people that just said, you know what, I was for nuclear research, and but now I'm not, because that series turned me off, because those people died on the Bridge of Death.
Yeah. Well, the show just depict a bunch of people, family with kids, sitting on the bridge, standing on the bridge, and watching this light emanating from the top of the nuclear power plant. I guess if I was there and I knew nothing about nuclear power, I'd be like, hey, that's a fireworks. That looks pretty cool. It's good to see that, good to hear that was a myth and not real. Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the serious things that I have a problem with, kind of like, we're going to get into the minor stuff too, but these are the serious things. These are the things like, I don't agree with them that I think they should not have done this. And the second one, I guess, was the fast radiation death. And again, it was from her book, and maybe in her mind, you're seeing a loved one die of radiation. It's probably say, oh, the skin was like, and scientists and radiologists, like, they think, no, gosh, how did you go like from nothing visible to like literally a zombie movie? This would have been good. You could have qualified at the Academy Awards for like, best special effects for a zombie movie with this, because they just went to town on this and said, and they have real pictures, they have real stuff. So it just said that was completely fabricated just for effect, I guess, just to sensationalize
it's for effect. Okay, so the next thing and this don't really bother me, the next one that the TV series got wrong is that all the actors in the TV series, did you notice that they don't speak with a Russian accent? They speak with a British accent. So I thought a TV show got this wrong. And in reading about I did a little reading about why the director chose that. They thought that if the Russian people were speaking with a Russian accent, the whole TV show seemed like a goof. So they ended up hiring British actors and let them use British accents. So I thought it was a little odd, and I didn't know that discrepancy until I saw this video. I'm like, yeah, I have these Russian people speaking with a British accent. So
I think I noticed that right. That was pretty obvious to me right away. It's like, but I realized the decision. Yeah, I was like, of course. It was like, well, I recognize the British actor. I mean, the main guy. It's like I forget his name, but it's like, yeah, he's a British actor.
He's a Swedish actor.
Was he Swedish? I thought he was British.
Yeah, he's Swedish. He's a Swedish. It's like a whole family.
Maybe grew up in. All right, but anyway, yeah. So it was pretty obvious in the beginning. This is a choice being made more and more these days. Like, because it used to be like, you cast Germans and Russians. So it's an American talking with a Russian accent, and so it sounds like Boris and Natasha, and they don't want to go that way. But if you had hired Russians, you could have Russians speaking English, but then you've got sort of that second level language problem where it's like it's harder to act in another language because you're trying to think of the language, so you don't have as genuine acting. Or you could have used actors speaking with subtitles, but they didn't want to make it like a foreign film. So I think that was a wise choice to cast who you need to cast. The guy was a pretty big name actor at the time. So I think it was a smart for all around, cast who you need to cast. And it just depends where it's being shot, like where you're going to bring in, and what your team you want to be. You don't want to cast two like Robert Redford type actors, because then it's like, well, it takes you out of it. It's kind of best to cast almost anonymously. And I say that even though the British guy recognized him for like 2 at least series. But I think for me, it didn't bug me at all, because I realized that's the choice, a wise choice to make. In the movie Hunt for Red October, they start having Sean Connery speak Russian, and then at one point it just switches and it's in English, so we don't have to sit through Russian subtitles. The word was Armageddon. He said Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Supposedly
he's
means
taking Russia as in English.
Yeah, so that was like.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised the Russian people weren't up in arms, right? That would be like finding a white person to play in the TV series Roots. That would not go so well.
Well, okay, I think it's okay. Next thing. Okay. So, all right. What's the next? Small thing. This is pointed out. I mean, it's no big deal. They show the helicopter like exploding. That like in the first 24 hours, and I think it happened months later. No big deal. I mean, it's fine with me. You change the timeline to when the helicopter exploded for dramatic effect. I mean, it doesn't matter like that happened. Some of the timeline things that people point out, like, oh, that happened a day later, a day earlier, I don't really care. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not taking a history test about it, so who cares when something exactly happened? So those you get a pass on.
Yeah. Even though it was fictionalized, the helicopter crashing was pretty cool. It seems pretty believable, right? Like, it was. It's like an EMP. A helicopter flying over radiation is kind of like an EMP. You just turn off all the electronics, and it makes sense that.
But it crashed from hitting wires.
Like in reality, that's what happened in reality, right? But
did the show suggest it was radiation?
It was radiation. It was like EMP. Yeah, the show suggested that if you fly the helicopter directly over where the light is coming from, it's like an EMP blast, and it would shut off all the electronics. That's what happened.
Interesting.
Because
visually, it looks like the actual real footage, but I forgot that they tried to say. I mean, there's a whole thing. EMP is probably one of the biggest Hollywood myths as well now. It's like I saw a series where they have it in your hand, a handheld EMP, and it's like even like a station wagon or a moving van sized EMP can do very little. It's like you need literally a nuclear bomb for a good sized EMP. So yeah, that's a whole thing too. I didn't realize they did that. All right. Here's a big one that really was bad. I mean, baby absorbed the radiation. Complete fabrication. No radiologist or scientist. No one believes this at all. It's a complete myth. The baby absorbed it so I could live. I'm like, oh, good grief. And again, it doesn't matter now, but back then, well, when it happened in '86, the series wasn't out. But I think people believed that radiation was harming their babies. They're going to have mutated babies, so they had abortions because of that. And that's kind of sad. I mean, it's like they didn't want the worst case scenario, but they were basing it on myths and superstition, all that stuff. So yeah, all these aborted babies because they thought the babies were going to be mutations. So that's where it really, literally killed people.
You mentioned earlier, one last, I didn't write this down, but you mentioned earlier that the TV series depict the operator as being very inexperienced. And right before we came on the camera, that was actually a myth. The operators were very experienced. I think they've been working for like 2.5 years, and the operator was actually mentoring other people the night of the accident. And the operator, the person who was depicted as not very experienced, he was like genius level and very passionate in nuclear industry. Was like accepted top of his class at the most prestigious university. Worked for 2.5 years, got straight training, and was training somebody else. So that's a bit of a myth, also. I didn't capture.
I think it was it was what he was trained in. I think they're pointing out it wasn't. They weren't trained for this. Maybe
not this test.
Routine operations. It sounded like the people that were best experienced to pull off this test, best qualified, weren't there. So it wasn't these people, right? I mean, you're literally a nuclear scientist, so it's not like you're stupid. I mean, yes, you're very smart people, but you're dealing with. I mean, they knew how all this stuff works, but they again, you have to kind of also know. Supposedly the manuals weren't written that well; they had markings all over them. So you're dealing with documentation that was shoddy at best. So it's kind of tough to go through. It's like, okay, what do we do now? I can't even read this thing. It's all in Russian or Cyrillic.
We're British people. How can we read this?
Okay, so yeah, we've got all that stuff to deal with. The other thing, I know what's the big thing about these 3 heroes that kind of volunteered to save the vapor explosion as the thing went down. Now, I read a little bit more. It's like, well, not really. There was no real danger of it. I mean, the biggest danger, of course, yes, is it melting down so far that it hit water lines and contaminated water. The whole vapor explosion, a lot of scientists said, well, not really, because they were saying, I think it said, the guy was saying, entire Ukraine would blow up. And like, no, not really, but great fiction. But yeah, but they did show the 3 people that went under to help dig, and like, they all died. Like, no, one guy just died a few years ago, so everyone basically lived a long life. So it's like, okay, it's fiction, but it seemed like unnecessary to kind of bring that in. Just show what they did as heroic deeds. You don't have to fictionalize that.
All right, what's the outcome? So all right, we know what happened. We know the facts from fiction. What happened since the Chernobyl accident?
Well, now Chernobyl there was sort of 3. There's been 3 like serious accidents of nuclear energy. And if you think about the amount of plants and the amount of hours that have been operation, it's like 1 in a crazy small amount. So, I mean, people like it to be 0, but there's no 0
like
for
plane crash
or anything else. Yeah, so it's like if you wanted 0, don't fly a plane. There's always going to be a thing. So, 3 Mile Island happened in '79, and even that, there was I believe no direct deaths from it.
There was nothing. It was fully contained.
Guaranteed. Yeah, that one, but they just liked the idea. It scared a lot of people. And then this happened 7 years later, scares a lot of people. Now, Fukushima, which honestly, I think the average person on the street, if you didn't say the name Fukushima, they wouldn't even guess Japan. They would just think, I haven't even heard of it, whatever. It was sort of kind of big news for a little while, but you really had to be paying attention. That one, I mean, it's serious, but you're talking earthquakes and tidal waves. How do you can't stop that. So I don't know if it was anyone's real fault. I mean, sure, you could do things better, but the one thing about Chernobyl is they weren't doing things that well. They were making mistakes. There were mistakes in the production of it, the running of it. There was a lot of mistakes, and this has been fixed. The amount of power plants Russia has today, China, with the government, they're kind of known for cutting corners, paying off bribes, all this stuff. How many accidents, well, also they would probably try to cover it up as much as possible.
That's
But
what Russia
I have not
is.
read about any serious accident in China for the nuclear plants in all the time they've had it. So you kind of think if it's not messing up stuff there or Russia or here for that matter that much, I think they're actually running pretty well. So unfortunately, yeah, Chernobyl, people kind of already had their opinions. Well, not the series, but when it happened, it just kind of went down. If you want some trivia, if you know the peace sign, that little arrow and that, whatever with the circle, that actually, that you know what it stands for? It's
No
semaphores.
Chernobyl?
Yes, no, Chernobyl. No, close. It stands for two semaphores. You know, when you use flags like you see on ships and stuff like that. Or anyway,
Okay.
so one flag being held up is like N, I believe, and the other flag being held down at your side, like 45 degrees, is D. ND, nuclear disarmament. So now, was that nuclear disarmament for reactors or for countries being armed? I'm not even sure about that one. But yeah, people just don't like nukes. Countries having nukes, fair enough. I mean, it would be great if we didn't have to. Or nuclear energy. Well, where do we get our energy from? And that's a whole big debatable thing. So the fallout is, a lot of countries have stopped nuclear operations or people have been outraged. That's one thing. What else happened?
Yeah, so many people, historians argue that the Chernobyl was the first domino, really one of the first dominoes to fall that caused the fall of USSR. And the primary reason was that there was so much secrecy around the Chernobyl incident. Like the government was trying to hide what happened, hiding from people, even hiding from the world, right? So after the whole mass exposure of Chernobyl, the people of Russia and even the people around the world were demanding more transparency of USSR government. And this was a government, from what I read, what I see on TV, it's kind of secrecy is a big part of the government and how it runs the government, withholding information. Yeltsin at the time was, the incident was a wake-up call for him, right? So he was allowing more transparency and openness and an open book for its people and the world to see. So it was the first of the dominoes to cause USSR's fall because of the openness and transparency, and actually fixing the fallout of what happened to Chernobyl was also a huge economic strain on Russia, right? So Russia wasn't like swimming in money at that time. It had a bunch of economic problems, bread lines everywhere. People were really, really poor at that time. People were starving. And with this incident, it actually cost more money that Russia was not expected to spend. So that also caused a huge strain on USSR and contributed to the fall of USSR. So that was, it was horrible what happened, but it was also historically pretty significant to what happened to USSR.
Yeah, that was at a time when they also had the Afghan war going on. So they were spending a lot there. People were unhappy with losing all these soldiers for no real apparent gains. It was just sort of a waste. So all of that contributed. We had some famines that were going on. So a lot of things coming together. And plus, it's communism. I mean, how long can true communism last? I mean, it's a tough thing to keep going because people get upset when you go to the store and there's nothing but bread, generic. Remember generic?
Or even bread, yeah. There are no, there are no Pepsi and Coke, which was what we were worrying about at that time. Like, in America, Russia was fighting Afghanistan and in Chernobyl. We were worrying about which one wins, Pepsi generation or Coca-Cola or New Coke.
And full circle, the America was getting involved because the Afghan soldiers had a problem with the Russian helicopters because they were untouchable. They basically could shoot them and do whatever. And then the U.S. said, "We're going to give you some Sidewinder missiles." There's a Charles Wilson War The book is really good.
Yeah.
The movies, it's kind of, they did a poor job, I would think, overall. But we gave them the Sidewinder missiles, and I was like, oh, now we can shoot down the helicopters. So it's like, and now we get into like, hey, we're going to give you the Tomahawk missiles. And like, we already gave them the HIMARS, but yeah, it was just kind of funny. It's like, we always want to give them, if you're going to shoot down the communists, we're going to help you. So it's interesting. All right, what's next?
And we're going to give you Rambo, who really was the person that won the Afghan war. Okay, since then, what happened? All right, James, can you visit Chernobyl as a tourist? That's question number one. And number two is, would you want to?
You can. I've seen people's videos of going out there. They can see it. They have those REM meters to measure radiation that you're exposed to. I wouldn't go to Russia at all right now, but if the dictatorship falls and things change, well, actually, wait, they say all this, it's in Ukraine. Well, I don't think Ukraine's a good place to go visit right now. I would probably. I would.
The tickets are probably pretty cheap now. You would visit it?
I would like. There's a whole joke. It's like I can name the amount of times I've been to Chernobyl on one hand. It's 7. So there's a fear of radiation, but I also see things by doctors that have like been working on research for that or doing studies of like the animals in the area, the plant life, the fauna in the area, and they've been doing it for like decades, and they're perfectly fine. So it's like as long as you don't take off your suit and don't stay too long, the amount of radiation they can compare worse than getting an X-ray or MRI or whatever. Yeah, they say if you get too many MRIs, it's extremely dangerous for cancer or radiation. So I think, I would. It would be kind of cool, but I don't know if I need to. I mean, I wouldn't, if it was going to cost me $10,000, no. If it's not $1,000, yeah, I'd do it for $1,000. That would be fun.
Yeah, I think there are many places that I want to visit before visiting Chernobyl, but maybe, I don't know. Okay. Nuclear part. So we talked about the fall and the fear of nuclear commercial power in the 80s, and then in the 2010s with Fukushima. Fun fact: I've been to Fukushima. I've been to the nuclear power plant in Fukushima, so I know that place pretty well. So, are there still nuclear power plants around the world, James?
There are quite a few. I'm always disappointed we don't have more because when this comes up, we're going to see a huge spike in power demands because of all this AI stuff, research, Gen AI, videos, who knows, maybe movies. So where are we going to get this power from? It's like we already strained the grids. Microsoft or NVIDIA is talking about building entire power plants dedicated just for this purpose. And you think, well, what are you going to run them on? More oil, more coal, more natural gas, wind, nuclear. So these things got to be answered. So luckily we still have some, but countries, it's like, I don't think it's the governments. They have to listen to the people, and the people like, no, we don't want nuclear. We've watched Chernobyl HBO. We see how bad it is. So let's look at some facts and figures and just see, well, how actually bad are things? Some of these charts won't make sense to you or me because I forgot where I clipped them from. Anyway,
all right.
Capacity. So now, capacity to most of us is like, I don't know. I like percentages, like to know what percent are we getting from nuclear versus natural gas, and it's kind of cool to see that. But the amount of power being generated at each one is still kind of interesting. So there it's megawatts, but when you've got 7,900 megawatts, now I believe you're in terawatts, 1,000 megawatts. So you can kind of see around the
gigawatts.
World, the flux capacitor.
Capacitor.
Yeah, you can kind of see it's like, okay, eastern U.S. The map doesn't really have the western very well, but eastern to southeast, Florida seems to like it. A lot of them, we'll get to it, but we've slowed down any new ones, but we don't decommission them that frequently. Britain went really high, but British people, man, they get into politics and government, and it just moves. They move fast, and all of a sudden everyone is like running the other way. So they also elect politicians, I believe, for 7-year terms on some things, and you just think, man, we talk about 4 being long. They're 7. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, but the prime minister resigns all the time now.
Yeah, but other things. The it's not just someone with the prime minister; it's the party. I believe the party can be there for a long period of time. France was huge. In fact, you can kind of still see it today. France went to town. The majority of their power comes from there. And how many incidents have you heard about from France ever?
Yeah, not France. I think it's been dwarfed by what happened in World War II. So.
Yeah, well,
anything that went bad about nuclear is like, we're going to look at World War II. Yeah, France, I think at one point it was like 90% of the power consumed in France came from nuclear power. This is
all post World War II. So everything was sort of like, it was ironic that the bomb research led to a way of us getting power to the entire world. So yeah, Russia has a lot, but they all kind of keep it on the West. If it doesn't benefit Moscow, they don't care. Like, are you from Moscow? Are you from St. Petersburg? You go fight war. So, and you've got, like, in fact, we got that new city. I think it was Dubai or whatever. So basically, you've got a city near the water, which is cool, but you can't drink the water because it's salt. The city's in the desert otherwise, so no rivers. So where are you going to get your water? Well, you desalinize it. Well, that takes an extremely high amount of power. Where do you get your power? Nuclear reactors. So they were actually pretty smart about it, although they could have burned oil too. I mean, natural gas or oil, because like they had that, but they decided whatever. So I think one of them has been built. All right, what else do we got? Okay, so nuclear electricity generation. That's interesting because you see the U.S. is still huge. I mean, like, where is everybody else? France is second. So even though we don't have the same amount of plants, or actually, I think we'll get to that, but we do. At 51 years, Switzerland, Unit 1 reactor, the oldest in the world. So that's kind of fun. 51 years now. You think that is a long time. China hosts the most reactors, 45. So China. And again, how many incidents? I would expect a lot. And again, I know China hides things all the time on accidents and floods and whatever, landslides, whatever. But you can't hide something this big. It has
you cannot.
Yeah, it comes out. I mean, look at Russia. They tried.
Russia tried to hide it, and then all the things went up in the air, and all this dosimeter went off in Eastern Europe. So that's how people found out about it and started flying satellite over and trying to take images.
Yeah, we got North America, 25%. Again, man, the East Coast, all over the place. South America, a couple. South Africa. There's a lot of places that would benefit from it. I mean,
sure.
Most of Africa, it's like, and Australia. I think that's a political thing too. They need power. They could probably use some of that. Desalinization is a big reason to do it. So it's interesting. It all becomes a political thing. It all becomes a belief and like, oh, it's bad for you. Generation by country, you can kind of see what do they call a circular pie chart, sort of. I guess it's a type of pie chart.
I think most pie charts are circular. That's what they call it.
Yeah, but sometimes there's a name. Well, there's like Venn diagrams. There's different types of things that are round. But yeah, okay. Yeah. South Korea, China, U.S., rest of the world, Russia, France. So it's just interesting because France is like the size, barely, people-wise, nowhere near China, and yet they're still pretty high. So. I don't know, that was kind of small. Share of electricity production from 2024. Oh, okay, so that's the percentage that you get from nuclear. And I think that's a big thing, because like, I don't know, terabytes or whatever, just what percentage you're using, because what percentage you're not using has to come from gas or whatever. So you look at the only place in the world that really goes big on this is France.
It's France, yeah. What's the percentage? Yeah. I can't read the chart.
They're about 60-something%. I think like 64% or something like that. 90s. Yeah, that's like nobody gets that much higher than 60-something%. So at one point it looked like the world was going to go fully, especially in the 50s and 60s, but things changed. Capacitor, you know what? That's just kind of hard to read. So 440 in the world. 93 in the U.S., 56 in France. So if you're thinking about safety and risk compared to whatever, the pros and cons, Chernobyl, I know one time, due to mistakes during a communistic era, I mean, since then, a lot of these countries have issues. Man, it just seems extremely low. So why aren't we doing it more? I mean, that is a. I mean, that's rhetorical. I don't think there's an answer for that. But
I think there's movement. We'll cover the next topic, right? I mean, there's a movement. It's coming into to vein again. I mean, I think people are starting to open up more to the necessity is the power of was the innovation,
invention.
Right? So
we've already invented it, so it's like
we invented it, yeah. But you learn to tolerate it when there's no options.
And it may be because we rely. I mean, we look at these things and we see. So 43% natural gas for 43%, and a finite resource by far. Coal, and I guess the natural gas factors renewables 21, which is growing. I mean, that's still cool, but it's just you need so much land to put up like wind things, and just the amount you would need to equal one small nuclear power plant is massive. Solar, the same thing. The panels get old and have to be replaced. They're still working on it. I'm all for researching this. I mean, I think if every home had solar and can be self-powered, that would be awesome. I mean, that would just be like, and people are trying to do it. We just have to make sure, what are the non-renewable materials that you need to make a solar panel and whatever. But I see research and gains, and I think that's awesome. I totally support that. But all right, moving on.
All right, moving on. This is not a political podcast about which power energy we should use. But here's a couple of things, right? Where in the world still using nuclear power? So we talked about commercial for power generation. Military actually uses nuclear power quite a bit in its submarines, for sure. Like a submarine could go under water for weeks, months at a time. And the reason that you could do that is because of nuclear power. That's what powers the propeller and generates all the electricity. So commercial power plants, military power plants, are there any commercial vessels? I mean, when you go on a Princess cruise, has there ever been a nuclear powered cruise by chance?
No, and that is a fascinating, because that's a question I'm surprised people don't ask more often. Like, well, you've got these an aircraft carrier that the power supply basically for a nuclear power reactor lasts as long as the ship. So by the time it runs out or it stops, the ship is basically shelf life.
Yeah, it's like 25
years, whatever. So the only time they need to is when they have to get food and water. So, or actually, you can. Another thing, water. Submarines and ships, you can actually desalinize the water. So you don't have to go out. So all you have to do is have food. If you got some good canned food or some good beef jerky, you can last a long time in the water. And it's really good for subs. I mean, you also need to come up so sailors don't go crazy down there. But interesting thing that I didn't know about, the original subs, I mean, from World War II era, they submersed and ran on batteries for a while. They had diesel generators, but you couldn't run the generators when you're underwater because of the exhaust, all these issues. Make sense. And you need oxygen.
You need oxygen.
So you have to surface to run your generators every about 48 hours. So even subs, they had to keep coming to the surface to start up, and that's when they could be spotted more easily, and a big weakness. So that was an interesting thing that now subs, you can be down there for weeks at a time, and you're fine. So the military has done a great job. Why not the commercial industry? I mean, it seems like, you got these massive ships that are burning massive amounts of fuel. Why not just slap the size? Remember, this fits on a nuclear sub. The size of these things are small. These are extremely small. They're just unbelievably small when you think about it. Because in the reactors, you think, oh, they're massive. They're huge. They take acres. But you don't need it to be that big. You scale it up because it's more economical.
Yeah, someone once told me it's about the size of a compact car to power.
It's just and that's amazing. That's amazing. So they did try it. There was a project, I think, in the 50s or 60s, 70s at one point.
59, Savannah.
Yeah, they were making some good progress.
Nuclear powered passenger cargo ship.
They did some tests, and again, it wasn't perfect back then, probably still making mistakes the same way the military had issues and mistakes, but they just kind of came to the conclusion that no one's going to want to ride it. People are so afraid of the fact that what if there's an accident? What if it explodes? I think it's the idea it's going to go nuclear. and have a
Yeah, it's
nuclear
gonna go
bomb.
nuclear.
Yeah. So they
People
canceled
still
that.
work at the postal office, and people could go postal.
Yeah, postal. We got a whole term from that. Funny, the term nuclear fallout. We have our term fallout, like political fallout. All that comes from nuclear fallout. So the whole idea.
Okay.
So I think it scared away people. Even if you realize there's really no chance of a nuclear explosion, because it's not contained. It really cannot go nuclear the same way a bomb can. It would be impossible. I mean, they would love for bombs to be that easy to explode. But the whole fact, you could have a steam blast or whatever, and radiation could get you. So there's a chance you could, or it just blows up part of the ship and the ship sinks and you die. So it was all canceled. So to date, we have 0. There is one vessel in the world that's technically commercial, and that's like a Russian icebreaker or something. So
Yeah,
just crazy.
That's right.
It's like we
And
just do
fun
not.
fact too, the enrichment of the uranium for an atomic bomb is something like 96% enrichment uranium, and a power plant grade is something like 4 or 5%. So a commercial grade, the nuclear fuel rod that goes into a power plant physically cannot explode the way a power plant, a nuclear bomb can. So where the explosion comes from is the steam explosion. And then if you expose the core, then now it's radiating, but it's not exploding like a nuclear bomb would in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just a fun fact.
Yeah. One of the most interesting, fascinating, I mean, and terrifying bombs is what's called a dirty bomb, where it's not even a nuclear explosion. It's a conventional explosion. It's just basically you strap radiative elements to it. So you put a bunch of radioactive stuff. Well, I mean, it's like a weird term, but yeah, dirt. Well, if it's radioactive dirt. But anyway, you would take it to a big city and you would explode a traditional bomb, conventional bomb. But because it's got radioactive particles all over it, now you've got radiation all over your city, kind of like it's like glitter, like bad glitter. So it's like a glitter. They should just call it a glitter bomb. But anyway, so that would basically get your entire city to flee because they'd think, oh shoot, I don't want to get die, and you could empty out an entire city. I don't know even what would happen, but it's cool that it's never happened to this day. Even terrorists haven't done this, but it's difficult to transport radiation or to work with radiation because it gives off radiation. So there's a signal.
It's kind of like a poor man's atomic bomb, right? I can't afford the nuclear bomb grade fuel, so I'll just use the poor man's version and just sprinkle it across everywhere. Okay, all right. We've been going on and on for about an hour. So what's next for nuclear power, James? Are there? You talked about data centers and AIs and stuff like that.
Yeah, we know we need it now. We've got
but what's happening in the industry?
Well, a lot of places, even France, if we looked at some of the charts, we're not going to go back to the charts, but yeah, a lot of countries have stopped or decommissioned some or kind of toned down. There's been almost no new builds. There's a few coming online in Georgia, but very few. People planned it, and then there's stuff. Bill Gates wants some stuff. Westinghouse is working on it. New York wants some stuff, which is ironic because they seem to not want anything kind of new. But we kind of know we need it now. So I think people are leaning on either politicians or whatever. All it takes is really just acts of Congress or whatever to allow it. So I think we are accepting the fact that we don't want to rely on Russia's oil. We don't want to rely on building wind farms to, kind of to replace the entire your savanna with wind farms. You need something. So I think we are going to see a rebirth to some level, like gold. Gold is in again. We're going to see a lot of it. So I think, but we also have our savior of energy.
What's the savior of energy?
The savior of energy is nuclear, but it's no longer that the first F word. It's the second F word.
I got it.
There was a cool video that came out recently, and we can show that to our audience that's still tuned.
Before we get to that, right? So I did some research. Put on pause real quick. So I did some research on the emerging nuclear power. So having worked in nuclear industry, you see this giant construction. It takes 10, 15 years to build a cooling tower and just a gigantic building. Some of these buildings would generate something like 2,500 megawatts of power. What I'm reading about is what's called a small modular reactor, SMRs. And they generate about 25 watts. So we talk about a nuclear power within a submarine, about the size of a compact car. Some of the emerging trend is that there will be factories that will make these nuclear compact car size reactors. And then making them in bulk and then shipping out to the places where are needed. It actually makes a lot of sense. So some of the potential customers include the data centers, which consume anywhere between, depending on the size, anywhere between 10 to 25 megawatts of power. So somebody like Amazon or somebody like Microsoft will say, hey, we want to buy a small modular reactor, attach it to our data center, power it up, and it would generate all the electricity needed for the data center. And all these small reactors could be sent to places in Africa, different parts of the world to generate electricity locally. So that seems kind of cool. There are a few companies that are doing research on it. And so that's one of the emerging trends. So instead of making one giant building that generates 2,500 megawatts, it would be a bunch of these little modular reactors that generates about 25 megawatts apiece. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way to go. I mean, you have issues controlling the radioactive elements and making sure things are safe, doesn't get in the wrong hands, type thing. But I think with these big companies, when you're talking about trillion-dollar companies, I'm sure they could hire security or get it done properly. I would hope. I mean, Google doesn't always do no evil. But yeah, you'd probably have it in northern areas where you have the snow to cool, like places like Norway or whatever, where you have, data centers often work well in places where you can cool because they get hot. So you want to be able to do that too. So ironically, you want to generate a lot of heat and then you want to cool things down really the same way. So
right.
It is pretty funny about that. But there are a lot of pros and cons. So yeah, fission until we get to fusion is going to be a lot of trade-offs. Spent control rods or fuel rods, we got all that. What do you do with it? People say, not in my backyard. They don't want to store it like in their towns. They will say, we don't want nuclear power plants near us. We don't want to store it. And say, well, where do we store it? We bury it in the mountain, encase it in cement. One idea was to shoot up in space, but then we had a rocket explode in Florida like decades ago where all this, it looked like a scene out of Warcraft where you cast that little like fire or night or like fire from heaven. And it was just literally it looked like a video game of all this stuff on fire coming down from the sky. But then I thought, well, why not shoot out with the desert or something? And there are answers, but it's not good. So if we can get the fusion, we got to keep them. We got to go with what we have now. But it's gas and oil, they're not going to last forever. We have to start thinking about the future because you don't want to wake up one day, guys, we're out of oil. Sorry, we ran out last night, 2 o'clock, sad. So fusion, so there's making some cool, and I just think it's fascinating. If we can replicate what they do on the sun, it's no basic, almost no byproduct, no hazardous waste, nothing. The byproduct is water. That's kind of cool. So you can do it unlimited, basically unlimited energy. It's just fascinating. Right now, the problem is it takes more energy to create it than you get out of it. So you're putting more in than you get out. It's like, and you go to a bar with this girl and you've been buying her drinks all day and she just says, good night. I put more energy than I got out.
Yeah, that's what fission scientists are thinking about.
That's the best example I can give scientists to use. They can relate. So that's
watching a video?
Yeah, that is a fusion plasma. There's two different types. One is kind of this way, that's the way with magnets. So it's like a coil in a tunnel. And then we can watch the Truman Show. So yeah, fusion is being researched. There was always a myth about, it's 20 years away. It still might be. Who knows? There's extremely tough things. Cold fusion in a bottle was like these kids' joke years ago, and it still kind of is a joke. But they're working on it, and the fact that they get 69 seconds or whatever is kind of cool because it was 0 seconds for the longest time. So 69 then becomes minutes and hours, and when it becomes a sustained fusion reaction, then all of a sudden we can start phasing out fission. This might be 10, 20, 80 years. I won't care because I'm dead. You can destroy the Earth then, for all I care.
I
joke. Don't destroy the Earth. Don't destroy the Earth. Yeah. Don't ask me to sing. All right, that's it. I think we covered a lot of fun stuff. It started out, like I said, it started out with Chernobyl, and in hindsight, or after doing more research, I think HBO, at least in the titles at the end, they did explain, like, okay, guys, we made up a lot of this stuff. It's like historical fiction, and we all kind of accept. I mean, it's not as bad as the Titanic, where the only thing true about it, the ship sank, or Pearl Harbor.
And then there were no roads.
Pearl Harbor, the ships sank. It's like that's the only true thing they got about it. The ship sank. Although it's funny, I was watching Pearl Harbor when they did that whole stuff about Doolittle's raid. I thought, man, how much you making up? And I'm like, oh yeah, Doolittle's raid was a real thing. It's like that hardly got any.
That was a thing.
That hardly gets any publicity. But yeah, the guy just passed away not that long ago. All right, that's it. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, we said it all. I mean, we got a little science, we got a little politics, we got a little technology update, we got a little history in there. So we've said it all, James. So
yeah, I think
viewers,
we've earned your
this content.
We've earned your subscription. I think we've earned your subscription.
Yeah. Subscribers, let us know if there are topics that you want us to cover.
Oh yeah, we got a
analysis.
Yeah, we got to think of the next topic. I mean, we had a suggestion. It wasn't on the thing, but it was about, what was it, 80s and 90s TV shows or something? 80s and 90s action movies.
That's before my time. I don't remember those. Yeah,
we can watch them, say, what was going on back then.
Top movies?
I'm big into AI and stuff like that, so it'll be a fascinating thing to cover, but I don't know. By the time the episode releases, it'll all be like, oh, that's like last week's news.
That's stale. That's so last week.
AI 10-second videos. We got full production movies now. All
right. We've said it all, James. Let's peace out, and we'll be back in about
more coffee, more cookies.
Yeah, more coffee, less cookies. All right, everybody. Thanks, James. That was fun.